Starting a new park in Jurassic World Evolution 2 is hard. But here are 7 park entrance designs that you can take inspiration from or copy one-on-one to give you a head start on your next park build. Well begun is half done after all. Or, as we say in Dutch, een goed begin is het halve werk. So, I have that. And I grab this path and then no. Maybe you just end up doing the same thing that you always do. Ew. If this is a struggle that you can relate to, this is the video for you. By the way, thank you for checking out this video. Like, subscribe, name your firstborn after me. And let's get started. The first entrance I want to show you is from a current park build on the channel. Guests arrive via helicopter and exit the building into a mini plaza with a view of a beautiful, expansive herbivore enclosure framed by the "When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth" banner. I think this is a beautiful introduction to a park, seeing dinosaurs from afar, making guests excited about getting to see the dinosaurs up close as they venture further into the park. To enter the park, the guests head into the visitor center. This is like a mandatory pass-through building where they get their park information and maybe get the opportunity to book a guided tour of the park. When they exit the visitor center, that's when they enter the park proper. Now, even though this works for path connection, guest AI doesn't function this way, so as you see, the streets are empty. A very simple solution is placing another entrance building somewhere else in the park. You can hide a different entrance building somewhere, or you can embrace the need for this extra building and turn it into a beautiful secondary entry point using one of the other entrance builds that I will be showing in this video, or you can add a queue in front of the helicopter pad and pretend that it is a helicopter tour of your park. The second example takes inspiration from one of the entrances that I built for my previous park entrance tips video. That video, however, is a year old and a lot has changed in the game since then. When I made that first video, we didn't even have placeable trees yet. Thanks to Okai for requesting this and making me realize that it is definitely time for an updated version. That being said, the previous video about park entrances is still going to be helpful, so I will link that one as well as other videos that I think will help specifically with starting a new park at the end of this video. I built a park entrance between 2 lagoons to make it feel separate from the park. To get this exact layout of the lagoon, what you want to do is you want to build the first lagoon, like so, and then you continue it. So we're gonna add all of these pieces and then we're gonna delete some. So what you wanna do is make like a shape like this. Kind of like a very strange W, and then get rid of the pieces or the lagoon circles in the middle. And then that is your shape. And to get like the lowered effect, you dig down like that and flatten from there. The entry section sandwiched between the 2 lagoons you can design in many different ways, of course, to either add your own style or to reuse this concept for multiple parks while still having it feel fresh. This exact design branches off in 2 different directions, which you could give extra significance to by having one half be herbivore enclosures and the other half carnivore enclosures, or maybe one path leads to half of the park which is Jurassic, and the other half of the park is all Cretaceous creatures. You don't have to go that route, but that's just an idea. Generally speaking, the entrance area that you build should split into multiple directions so you can expand the park outward rather than having a very linear park build. This particular entrance design should go about in the center of the map, and the path would eventually wrap around so you could put viewing galleries on the lagoons and actually make use of them. Obviously, I'm not advising you to just use empty lagoons here as spacers. Number 3 is this enclosed square, making good use of the new Jurassic Park wall pieces. This entrance plaza branches out in 4 different directions, so it's another design that would be best to place at the center of a map. I see a lot of people put their entrance building at the edge or even in the corner of a map, and I wouldn't recommend this for any of the big regular maps, and especially not for the square maps. If you start at the edge or in a corner, you might run into issues down the line getting stuck on the map border. I don't think it's the best use of the huge available space. You don't have to start right smack at the center, but at least away from the edges so you have maximum freedom for your creativity to go with the flow and for the park to expand out in all directions wherever the inspiration takes you. Only start at the edge of a map if the map is small or oddly shaped, or if you have a pre-planned park layout in mind that you know flows in a certain direction. This park entrance plaza feels really secluded and it's not really giving away any of the goods yet, and you can tell that that is a vibe that I like going for with my parks. I see it as building mystery and excitement. I would imagine a guest would arrive at this plaza and get really curious about what they are going to see and experience beyond the walls. A cool idea for this entrance is to keep this as the single central hub through which 4/4 of the park are connected, so guests would always come back here. 1 part carnivores, 1 part herbivores, 1 part flying reptiles, and 1 part marine reptiles, all connected through this plaza. Not something you have to do, of course, I'm just spitballing ideas here that I hope you can turn into a fun build. 4th entrance of the video is one of the smallest ones, and this one would be very suitable to place at the edge of a map. Either have the back of the entrance building against the map border or the back of the visitor center. The path splits in 2 different directions and can wrap around whichever building isn't at the edge. This entrance plaza plays with elevation, as do most examples in this video. Elevation differences are key for an awesome park build in my opinion. If your map is still flat by the time your park is done, you've sold yourself short. Even the best parks are made even better when you play with elevation. Now this is just a tiny elevation difference, with the entrance building slightly sunken down, but I love that it creates this moment of walking up the steps through the gate towards the building. It makes the visitor center and the gate loom over our new arrivals all the more. I felt this feeling of coming up into the park really fit with the Jurassic World entrance building, which I'm assuming is at the end of a tunnel, so your guests are already coming up from underground, they're ascending into the park essentially, and I think it would be really fun to play with that idea throughout the park layout, having the paths climb continually up higher and higher as guests, meander further into the park. Note how close you can get the path to this front staircase, almost as if it actually does connect there, which is why I loved using this variant as opposed to the classic one with the thatched roof, where you can't get the path as close. By the way, if you are enjoying the video, please give it a like and stay tuned until the end to tell me which of these 7 examples was your personal favorite. My personal favorite is probably the last one. You'll see. Number 5 is the first one that incorporates a dinosaur habitat into the entry section. It's just a really simple 3-tiered design, with the habitat on the lowest tier, the main path coming out of the entrance building on the 2nd tier, and on the top tier, the hotels. From a realism standpoint, I really like putting hotels close to a park entrance, so guests wouldn't have to drag their suitcases around, but instead can just put them into their rooms and then go explore the park unencumbered. Even though there are no game mechanics for stuff like that, I think it's interesting to think about and can give you inspiration for your builds. This is another entrance section that would work at an edge or even in a corner because the path is still just going in one direction. The 6th park entrance places the entrance building in a hollowed out hill surrounded by path. The terrain is flat at the bottom and at the top, but slopes up gently on either side where guests would move up and down. To make this layout, you want to start with a large circle. So we're just going to use the path tool, make a circle like that. Then you want to introduce your terrain elevation. So we're going to go up. And we're going to create like 2 tiers. This might be a little bit much actually, so let me flatten it a little bit. There, so you can see that the elevation sort of goes down the center of the circle. We grab the smooth tool, and we're just gonna do the mostest for smoothing it. And you want to make sure that you keep what is currently the left and right side of the circle flat, because those are going to be your connection points where you're going to be putting buildings as well. So you can see that we have just a really smooth hill over here. And then you grab the flatten tool and you just carve out a central section like that. And then this is where you place your entrance point. And obviously you can switch up the entrance points as well. You can also go for the There you go, for the helicopter. And you can see that either end is flat so that it is still suitable for adding your buildings and stuff. Again, this entrance directly incorporates the first dinosaur habitat of the park to give your guests a first look at what to expect. The tiers give a good overview into the paddock and allow guests to look over the entrance building from the top. Because it branches off in 3 different directions, and of course you could add more, this entrance style works best closer to the center of a map. The final example I'll be showing in this video takes inspiration from this image. I have a folder with reference images that I've accumulated since I started building parks in the first game. Googling public park designs has always proven to be particularly helpful. I don't always use reference images, but I think it's a good tip that when you get stuck, you use Google to find some references that would inspire you. When I saw this one, I immediately thought of the monorail tracks as substitutes for these wooden structures. I've translated it into the game in quite a simple manner, in part because, yes, I did only build this for the purpose of this video, so I didn't want to spend 2 hours on it, but also to highlight the difference between inspiration and copying. My design is obviously inspired by the reference, but comes nowhere near to copying the beautiful and complex original design, not in the least because of the limitations of the game. I thought that was an interesting thing to highlight for this video, to remind you that you can find inspiration anywhere. You don't have to exactly copy something one-on-one to get great results. Personally, I think this is a very pretty park entrance, with the monorail track structures providing shade. This would work very well on the desert maps, where you would repeatedly use structures like this throughout the park, not just for the practicality of creating shade, but also introducing a uniform design element throughout your park to tie the whole thing together and make it feel cohesive. The circular monorail structure on the hill gives kind of the feel of a pagoda. It also provides an elevated look into a habitat and is a traffic bypass. The overall layout is very organic and can branch out in many different directions depending on how you want to take the park design from there. It also uses a lot of different path colors, again taking inspiration from the reference. Mixing up path colors really helps in making plazas look more interesting, and you can create areas that feel separate without actually having them be separate. I think this was my favorite of the bunch. Let me know in a comment down below which one you liked best. If this video inspired you for your park build, please give it a like. You know, like I help you build parks, and you help me fight the indomitable monster that is the YouTube algorithm. For more park building inspiration, check out the channel and consider subscribing. Linked right here are more videos on park entrances and plazas. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.